Welcome to New Release Review, part of the Movie Friends podcasts. Today we are talking about Killers of the Flower Moon from 2023, directed by Martin Scorsese. We will be discussing spoilers for the entire movie and for this entire episode. So if you haven't seen this, please do not listen unless you want the possible final film of one of our greatest living directors ruined for you, in which case there's nothing I can do for you. Today, I am very excited because I am joined by two long-term movie friends. We have Jamila and Greg. What's going on, guys?
Hey,
Hello.
I'm happy to be here.
So, this is maybe the longest movie ever made. No, I'm just...
This is past 3. It's under 4.
It's not the longest movie I've ever seen, but I think this was the longest film that I've seen in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And I made sure to use the bathroom before heading to the theater, but I did not. I probably should have fasted all day.
Oh, see, I didn't have
And then
any
I went
problems
into
with
it.
that.
Oh no!
No,
Can I tell you my first long movie?
Sure.
It was like 2005, and I saw the Peter Jackson King Kong, and I was so happy because being a child, like I don't think I cared about a good movie. It was just it's King Kong, so I was just like
Sure.
watching him break stuff. I was like, yeah, 3 hours of that.
Yes. Yeah, I remember. I liked that King Kong, and then like Lord of the Rings, that was a big one. Prior to that, because it was like going to see it in theaters, and it felt like you came out of the theater and it was like a totally different day. But I made a beeline as soon as the credits rolled for this movie. I made a beeline to the bathroom.
Not sponsored, but what theater did you go see it at, Seth?
I saw it at a Regal.
Okay.
okay.
I went to an Alamo, so like I went all in on the food. I mean, I ran it up. I was like, "Yep, popcorn." Well, because I had a free popcorn coupon, and it was bottomless. So like, I was like, "Heck yeah!" And then I was like, "Shake, pizza."
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna starve. I'm gonna eat.
No, a shake. I would have been running. I would have needed an intermission. And I feel like this movie would have done well with an intermission.
Absolutely. I mean, the beginning I think it had the black title card where it was like something about the rise of the Osage. I thought we were going to get more title cards.
Mm.
And I mean, you have Thelma Schumacher editing this. She could have edited it perfectly to say, now 10 to 15-minute break.
Yeah.
Where would that have been, though?
Wherever she brilliantly would have put it.
You know where I would have put it? I would have put it right after the house explodes.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
look at you,
see,
filmmaker mind.
Yeah, no bathroom neater mind is more like it.
See, Jamila, I really didn't feel like the duration that much, and if I did, it was mostly because I was tired from like going in class and like going to the trail, and I was just like, I'm kind of tired, but like it didn't feel like this is still going on. It felt like I need to go to sleep so I can wake up and go to work early tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think what can make or break a 3+ hour movie is like when you set the table, the first hour can go by really fast if you just and like the way they had it with like the train going by and the oil and the dancing and I don't want to like I know this movie is a very serious topic, but there is a song that they used that was really like I was bobbing my head like this is a good ass song, and I was like I feel like I'm a cool guy. I'm like wait, this movie is not supposed to make me feel like like a cool guy on the street of New York.
Right. Yeah. So okay. So now that we've gotten the big topic out of the way, which is the runtime, I guess we'll go Jamila first, and then we'll go Greg, and then I'll go last. Just general thoughts on like the movie as a whole.
Okay. Well, I really loved it. I thought it was great. I really avoided like any trailers or teasers or anything. So, all these big moments that people probably saw in the trailer were really fresh to me. I just feel like he's grown so much, which is incredible because, Like he's so late in his career, and I loved how clear the messaging was. I feel like a lot of criticism with his films, which I feel like it's kind of displaced. It's mostly like I feel like maybe inexperienced viewers or taking away the wrong things. Is that the kind of like dualistic characters, you end up sympathizing with them. And, they make it very clear, like, Ernest is, just scum. He's just a traitor. And you're not supposed to really sympathize with him. I don't even think you're supposed to really understand him, just kind of understand that he's just complete scum. And, but at the same time, it's like, oh, but he loves, like, he's just a complete imbecile, honestly.
Yeah.
It's someone, I don't know if it's someone we know, but someone was like, this was a really, really good movie, but it's still not a top 5 Martin Scorsese movie. And to me, that like shows how, important he is as a filmmaker. The fact that he could like, if we're grading him, you can give him A, but like, I guess because it's still new, it's hard to put it next to Goodfellas and Taxi Driver because it's like those have been with us for so long, and I really, I don't know if this is fair to say, but like I feel like I like the movie more because I heard he went back to the Osage tribe and they said, "Hey, this is our feedback on how you can make it better." So I feel I was probably uneasy about like, is he gonna make this about, I don't know, is he going to portray these people well? And I was so much more into the body of the story that things like, oh, the cinematography, the editing, the acting, that was all like background to me. But even that background was still very well done. And I think the fact that I'm very much considering seeing this movie again,
Wow.
that shows you how I enjoyed it. So I gave it a 4 on Letterboxd just when I walked to the theater, but it might go up. So
I think that this is a great movie, and I think a lot of skill is on display here. What's been kind of confusing for me is I as well avoided trailers. I avoided any mention of this movie. I wasn't able to see it Thursday night. I went in to see it Friday night after work, and I had to work the next morning, and so I was like, "Holy moly, this is this is an endurance test." But so I avoided everything I possibly could, all day Thursday and all day Friday until I could see it. And coming out of the theater and then looking at what people were saying and reading reviews and watching little videos on it, I was pretty blindsided by what people took away and like what people loved about this movie, because to me they were some of the weakest parts.
Okay.
Like, and okay, so let me preface this by saying Martin Scorsese has done more for film history, film preservation, and film promotion than anyone that we can think of, right? He's the greatest. He's a funny little man who makes funny little TikToks with his daughter, and we all love him, okay? So I just want to say that before I say anything else. But I didn't love this movie, and I did really feel the runtime. Like I felt like that meme where I was like, "Oh my god, there's 40 minutes left in this movie." But I was like, "Oh my god, there's 2 hours left in this movie." And also like for me, the one of the weakest parts of this movie was De Niro. I felt like it was cool to have him in this movie because we haven't had him and Leonardo in a Scorsese movie together, and so that was cool to see. But he just felt so out of place. Some of the other bad guys, that they got looked like they pulled them out of the 1920s, and they felt like real and authentic, and they felt like they had their own little characters, like Kelsey and AC. I wanted to see more of them. Like those dudes were wild, crazy. And then De Niro, like his accent kept slipping in and out a lot. And I don't know, I found myself oddly like Jamila, like you said, um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm forgetting his name now, the main character.
Ernest.
Yeah. Ernest is he's kind of like an imbecile. Like he's kind of dumb, you know? And I found myself not chuckling, but just feeling real strange about the tone with a lot of
I agree with you on that.
Kane
I agree with
and
you. The
Ernest
tone,
scenes together.
it did need some, like, it wasn't completely working for me.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest criticism. And I kind of understand where you're coming from with De Niro, but for me, I still admired him in this film, you know, especially at his age. Like, he's still giving it his all, but it's like something that I've seen before from him.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, I've seen you do this accent a zillion times. I know you can do this accent. I've seen you play this kind of like muted villainous character. Like, I feel like people are used to seeing him as like this big bombastic, yeah, he's Al Capone, but like, I'm like, I've seen this from you. I've never seen this from Leo before. I've never seen him look so disgusting.
Yes.
When she was like, oh, he's so cute. He's like a coyote. I'm like, yeah, he's like a coyote, but not in the way that you're saying. Like, he looks like Smeagol. I feel like this is like what he's been working for, like, his whole entire career. His whole, like, he's been pigeonholed in this, like, heartthrob, and because of the success of Titanic, it was still so hard to get out of. And he's been looking for like that kind of like status that De Niro has, but he can't because, you know, he's Leo, and you know, with The Revenant, he ate the bison, you know, and now I feel like we're finally seeing like the full like fruition of like, okay, so now he's this rugged character. He can play these rugged, like, weird characters.
Thought experiment. What if De Niro and Jesse Plemons' characters had swapped roles?
Wow. You know what?
Would that have helped?
But he's not old
De Niro.
enough.
Old man makeup. This is the movies.
Okay.
Yeah. But, you know, but Greg, you bring in a good point. I think I would have bought De Niro maybe in like an FBI role or something. I don't know. I just didn't know what he was doing, and I might rewatch this. I kept saying to myself as I was going in, pay attention because you're never going to see this again.
Oh my god.
well, no, it's just because of its length, and you know, if I don't like it, I'm not going to devote another 3.5 hours to it.
But you always do that. You always rewatch movies that you don't get. That's why I was like, I know you don't like Gangs of New York because you kept rewatching
you know
it.
What? And this is gonna probably upset some people, but I've never had any interest in watching The Irishman. But watching Killers of the Flower Moon, one of my first thoughts was, I'm gonna watch The Irishman like this week because I want to see kind of the realm that Scorsese is in this late stage of his career. Yeah. So. But I will give.
I agree with you entirely. I have not seen The Irishman. I never thought about watching it, but after seeing this thing he did, because also something I'm thinking about is Scorsese did this at 80, and like not to like give him like pity for being old, but like it's kind of weird to me that Tarantino is thinking, yeah, I'm about to hang it up, y'all. Right. He's 20 years younger. Like, come on. Dude, like,
I don't know. He talks too much, and it's just kind of like rude. Like,
I don't believe that he's gonna do it.
No, I've been very vocal about how I think that that's such a silly thing, and we know, you know, Tarantino is also a great student of film history. I don't know who he's referring to when he says, nope, directors should just make 10 movies. Maybe? And after that, they're all bad. It's like, what are you talking about? And yeah, no, I don't think it's pity for being old. I think it's just respect for knowing how grueling making a film can be, and that Scorsese could have retired 2 decades ago, you know, and rested on his laurels, and yet he is still like pushing forward. And you know, he outright called this a passion project. I love that he's 80 and he still has a passion project.
Right.
Let him make them, you know? So yeah, I didn't like not like this movie. So I just want to be really clear on that. To me, what I wanted more Lily Gladstone.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
I wanted more of Mama Lizzie, and I wanted more of the Osage, because whenever we cut away from the main story to have these little asides with De Niro and DiCaprio, I was like, these are conversations that I want to be seen amongst the Osage, not the people who are like plotting to kill them. I know that they're plotting to kill them. I know all that. There was one good reveal when we first see the private investigator. I think his name was Bill Burke or something, who has like homes around the entire world.
Yeah.
When we first see him get jumped, you don't see that it's Leo. And then maybe, 45 minutes later, it's revealed when we see the scene again that Leo was one of the ones who jumped him. I thought that was a good reveal. But because we know who's kind of doing these things, I wanted to focus more on the Osage. And the video that I had shared with the both of you was from their linguistic expert who helped on the film. And people were really upset that on the red carpet he was like, this is not a film for the Osage, this is a film for everybody else. And I don't like how much we're spending on the Ernest character. Like, we're telling this story from the Ernest perspective, when it should have been told from the Molly perspective. And that's exactly how I felt. And only because the scenes with the Osage, those were the scenes that left me like mystified.
Honestly,
like when we were in that council scene and they're talking about what's been happening and the money has brought evil things with it because it's the white man's money, I was like, I want an hour of this. I just want to hear them talking, and I want to explore, their culture more. And so for me, like, in a 3.5 hour movie, I think there was definitely time to do those things. And we didn't. But anyway, yeah. So speaking of Jesse Plemons, how'd you guys feel about Jesse Plemons in this movie?
Oh, he was great. Yeah.
I've never, there's like this meme that's like, as a picture of just his face on Twitter, and it's like, when this motherfucker shows up in the movie, it's going to be good. And like,
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think I've ever seen him not be good in this movie. I was kind of surprised, like it was like a jump scare when Brendan Fraser showed up, because I was like, wait a minute, no one ever said he was going to be in this, and the voice was so like, the voice was so different from other voices in the room. I was like, who's talking?
Right.
But it's, if there is maybe a weak point in the movie, I don't want to say it's the ending, but I do kind of feel like I wanted more. Like, I really wanted like another 15 to 20 minutes plus intermission to just like, although no, because I think the whole credit scene with like the on stage part, that was awesome.
It was really cool. I thought it was a interesting way to wrap it up.
But about runtime is like, I think they talked about, there's more murders that happened that we just kind of couldn't touch on or couldn't track down. And it's like, saying that makes me feel like, wow, this is not 3.5 hours of fluff. This is 3.5 hours of, I need to tell you everything that I can fit, and the house blowing up is probably one of other 30-minute bits you could have filmed.
Sure. Yeah, and I will say, like, while I did feel the runtime, I think the runtime is justified. We're telling a story over like 10 years, almost. And there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of different characters. And so I do not want to see a shorter version of this. I think I want to see a longer version of this. I want to see, more. I just want to see more.
But doesn't this make you guys like want to learn more? Like, this makes me like, okay, I'm definitely picking up the book. The fact that he leaves all this out makes you think. And then he references so many other atrocities. He references the Tulsa race riots. There's so much going on. He packs so much into this film, and it makes the viewer like more interested to find out about this history, to find out, like, what else is our country hiding,
Yeah. I told my friend when I got out the theater that when this comes on Blu-ray, I want an hour like conference of the Osage just kind of talking about their history from themselves. Like I want so
Yeah.
much behind the scenes that's not just how we made the movie. Like I want to know like
Right.
how we thought of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going back to the opening, I was kind of perplexed. I wasn't quite sure what was happening, and so that caused me to start learning more about like the actual Osage. And that opening is when they were kicked out of their land, because in the movie they keep saying, "Oh, we came from somewhere else," but in reality they were actually forced to go to Oklahoma. And so when they have that opening, which feels like a funeral where they're all crying and saying like, the kids outside of this tent are going to be taught by white people and they're not going to know our ways.
So beautiful. Like I
Yeah.
love that part.
Yeah. And like I feel like that is like the gravity in that grabbed me so much more than the gravity of like Leo in his cell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I would have liked to have seen that kind of like expanded on. And I did love the title cards, the old black and white, 1920 style title cards, kind of explaining how things worked.
Right.
One of my favorite performances, I already brought up Lily Gladstone. I don't know. I have no notes on that. I thought it was beautiful and very funny. Very, very funny.
Yes.
While also being very grounded and just, I love how much control and power like her presence had over Leo's in any scene that they were in together, even though you have him, she tells him, "You talk too much."
That was great.
And when he's sitting at the table with her and he leans in and he's like, I really like the color of your skin. And we see like the color of his teeth. And it's just like, you feel like this is like he's a jester, like he's a fool sitting with a queen, and anything in their relationship is because she allows it. She allows him to be around her.
Right.
So I thought that she was really wonderful, but I wanted to quickly mention Cara Jade Myers as her sister Anna.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Anna is the sister who's, shot in the back of the head.
Right.
But I loved her performance as kind of this, wild child. Yeah. What did you guys think about her?
Oh yeah, I loved her too. She was just a total firecracker.
She had a very good slap.
She had a very good slap.
She had a very good slap.
Yeah, I loved how she like carried a gun and wasn't afraid to use it, and she's just popping shots off and walking away.
I thought it was interesting that she was the mom's favorite, and I wonder if that was because she was single and she wasn't mixing with the white guys. I don't know. Is that what you guys think too?
Sometimes, I feel like sometimes, I might be revealing too much here, and I might be assuming too much here about different families, but I feel like for parents, the child that needs the most help is often the one that is the most loved, because they're the one that needs the parents into adulthood. But that's just me.
That hasn't been my experience. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Speaking of a Brendan Fraser jump scare, which I want to talk about that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But
okay.
I got a John Lithgow jump scare.
Right. Yeah.
That I was not expecting.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought he was great. I always love to see John Lithgow. And this was the first time that I saw Lithgow where I thought, wow, he has definitely aged. And, he won't be around much longer. And I was thinking back to some like early De Palma stuff with him. And I was just like, wow, he's zowie. But yeah, I thought that he was pretty great.
And that was like a dream of Marty's, apparently, was to work with him.
Oh,
I
really?
Wish he was in, I wish he was in more of the film. He was great.
Also, someone who just has the ability to freak me out because of the movies that I've seen with him is Pat Healy. And Pat Healy shows up as one of the FBI agents. But then it turns out, and I don't know how true to life this is, but it felt like the FBI team were genuinely interested in helping.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. They didn't portray them in like a good or a bad light. It was just like, we're here to do our job. Like, J. Edgar Hoover sent us to do our job. And we're doing it. And yeah, I was kind of surprised that there was no like snide racist comments or anything like that. It was just like, what's going on?
Right. Right. Yeah, and apparently in real life, Jesse Plemons' character was the only one who was like down there as an out and out FBI agent. Mm-hmm. All of the other agents were undercover, like gathering information.
Yeah.
For a few years.
That seemed true for that one guy, which I thought there was going to be more revealed with him, because he was like playing pool with, or I don't know if it was billiards with Ernest.
So the other performance I want to mention is William Bellew as Henry. And this is the friend of Kane who they keep describing as melancholic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And he takes a life insurance policy out on him. And he's kind of just like stringing this guy along to continue living long enough so that he can... That was pretty disturbing. But Henry, I thought, I loved that character.
He gave a really great performance.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to see more of him. And the thing that I didn't remember, and I was going to ask you guys, when Leo first shows up and he's picked up by someone, and that guy is driving him into Kane's cattle thing, and he asks him, he says, "Whose land is this?" And he says, "This is my land." Was that Henry? Do you guys remember?
I don't remember.
I cannot remember.
Okay.
But I doubt it, because just judging from like all his behavior throughout the film, I don't think anybody would insure him with that job to drive Leo there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt so bad for his character.
So did you guys notice the score? I thought that the score was good. Apparently Robbie Robertson worked on it prior to passing away. But did you guys notice that there was like one bass line that kept repeating over and over?
Like a thumping sound?
I thought it was great. It just fills you with this dread.
Yeah, there was just something about like how it kept repeating where I was like, oh, we're back into whatever he wanted us to feel. We're back into this now.
I have a feeling that when I get this for on 4K to watch at home with like my surround sound stuff, I'm gonna like it even more.
Right.
Like when I can just like I want to go back to this world. I really do. Even though as Seth has pointed out that there are things I wish we had more Lily Gladstone or more Osage. It's like I guess from what we do have, I still enjoy it, even though I can say, yeah, this still could have been better. And I think what's hard is that, again, had this not been a Martin Scorsese movie, I feel like there might be a different opinion about it. But because, again, this guy is coming after Taxi Driver, Wolf of Wall Street, all these movies that we know of being like at such a high standard, it's like it's hard to compete against yourself, I guess,
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't it funny that towards the beginning of his career, Martin comes out with Taxi Driver, and then towards the end of his career, we get another movie about a deranged taxi driver?
Like 76 was a long time ago, but it's still like it has stayed. Or even like I know some people have different opinions. I think The Departed is a great movie, but you could say The Departed is not even the movie he should have won Best Director for. Like,
no, not in a million years.
Oh my gosh, The Aviator! Like he has so many hits, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. When Ernest was driving taxis, I was just like, Martin, do you know any other profession?
Even whatchamacallit, the ambulance movie with Nick Cage, I was just like, oh, this is like Taxi Driver, but he's an ambulance.
Yep.
It's slightly more comedic. Let's talk about the fact that, and I'm not going to bring up like what I don't even know who these people are,
Sure.
You know, they were talking about like, oh, Guardians of the Galaxy is better or whatever. And I'm just like, there are so many laughs in this movie, and like honestly, it had no business having so many laughs.
Like the front is the front, the back is the back.
Yeah.
Because when he shot him, I was like, "That's the back, my guy." I mean, he shot him in the wrong place.
Yes.
Or the F duck line. Just like there's so many laughs.
That one really threw me for a loop.
Right. Everybody in my theater was just like, yo.
Yeah. The part that made me laugh, and I thought it was a really good interaction, but also just I was laughing for the whole thing, was when Ernest is in Bill's house and he's like, I don't like talking to you, Bill. That's what it is. I just don't like you. And Bill says, the Lord made me, Ernest. Nothing I can do about that unless you aim to kill me. And that's when
well, he was like, can I get you a drink? He was like, yeah. I was like, there is no drink. I was like,
yes.
I like that guy. See, I thought we were supposed to be wary of him at first, and then I realized, oh no, it's just because it's for the point of view of Ernest and King, the King character. Just like, is he supposed to be a bad guy too? Like, no, like he's on their side. He's investigating. He's looking into this, and then they get blown up.
Yes,
that scene.
Yeah, because
that was devastating.
Yeah, that was very rough. I agree. Like with Bill, because his wife passes or is murdered, and then he quickly moves on to someone else. I was like, oh, is this just like another degree of these men, taking advantage of this tribe? But I do think ultimately he was, trying to do the right thing. The other part that and this was, I don't know, this could just be me, but when Molly meets Calvin Coolidge and she's like pleading with him to send, and he's just like, thank you, and then walks away.
Yeah.
I didn't like laugh, but I was like, oh, this plays so
I mean, that was kind of realistic to me.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I can't imagine being the president and you go to these functions and people are like, hey, you can solve all my problems, like please do something.
Right.
And it's like, how do you even navigate those conversations? And I did like that we don't even really see like Calvin Coolidge's face. Like he's just kind of shot from behind and then disappears, and we don't get a phone call of him saying like, we need to go down and help these people. And in real life, and they do mention it in the movie, but in real life, they had to donate $20,000 to the Bureau of Investigation before anyone came and like did anything.
Right. So I don't like a question or I don't know. I just like, I feel like I see a lot of people saying like, it's incredible that this was happening in plain sight. And I feel like for me as a Black woman, I'm like, this is not incredible at all. This is like history. This is how it goes. Like, but I'm glad that he's, presenting it this way. Like, it's happening in plain sight. Like, I think somebody says like, if, they were killing dogs, something would be done up for them before they would do something for this tribe. like, no, this is just the way it goes. I'm glad that people are realizing it now. But yeah.
Well, I think the key to that is that, that one of the first title cards that says they became the richest people per capita on planet Earth. And how after they had this like amazing turn of good fortune, it almost is like an insult to the white people in the area, or not even in the area, just who are like, they don't deserve this money and we're all going to band together. And when you have doctors, and when the dude doing it is like one of the sheriffs, or, because that was like a one shot thing of King saying like, yeah, I'm like one of the deputy sheriffs of this area or whatever. But when you have the police and you have doctors on your side, and, it's like the things that you can get away with just teaming up against one group of people. I mean, Ernest gives a high five to the KKK as they're marching through town.
Yeah, that part. Just like another absurdly kind of like morbidly comic part. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what we're dealing with here.
that was one of the most disturbing parts of the movie to me. Yeah. Because Ernest might not even know what that represents. But
Mm-hmm.
we, in 2023, when we see that,
right,
there's something inside of us that kind of like,
mm-hmm.
chills up and is, disgusted. And so to see them, one, just marching through town, and then two, Ernest be like, hey, what's going on, Grand Dragon? It
right.
was really, really, really scary, because it's that attitude of apathy and complacency that led to, that terrorist organization
right.
still being in existence today.
Right.
Where
Doesn't
we used to live.
King say something? They have some like meeting and they're like, yeah, I don't know about those KKK guys. Like even Ben is like, yeah, like we gotta watch out for them.
Yeah. Yeah. The town that I used to live in, there would be flyers for joining the KKK all the time.
Oh,
and
wow.
They actually did do a march through the town. And it's so anyway, that was one of the more disturbing parts to me, for sure.
Right.
I do want to talk about
all right,
Brendan Fraser.
Yes.
So I don't know how you guys felt about The Whale.
I never saw it because like there was so much discourse about like this is bad, it shouldn't exist. I kind of didn't even get to it, but I did.
Sorry.
I do know that it was apparently for Brendan, like his comeback season. So
like, which is good for him. I don't know. I've always been a fan of him, so I'm glad that he's getting recognition and he's getting work. Since I know he's had troubles recently. I'm not a massive Aronofsky fan, so that was part of it.
Oh, that man never makes a movie weird. Like every movie that he's made, I leave it feeling just.
Honestly, it's not even like his films. It's not even icky of his films. It's like, oh, and this is what this means, and that means this, and Freudian nonsense. I'm like, just shut up.
Oh my god! Yeah, this man did. All his movies are just so like they're bleak beyond enjoyment, and I'm just like,
wow.
I mean, like that's how I feel. I mean, Black Swan
and
is.
Thinks he's just like this art house auteur. I'm like, you're just like throwing stuff. I'm sorry, this is not going to be an Aronofsky rant.
So I will say, I think Aronofsky has a pretty perfect track record up to Noah.
Okay.
And then after that, it's been real bad. Like Noah is an abomination of a film. I really did not like Mother. And The Whale, I was pretty 50-50 on. Brendan's performance in it, especially knowing, that the suit that he was wearing like weighed an incredible amount, and that it was a difficult shoot for him. I think that his performance in it is really good. And I think, I think I'll just leave it at that. But how did you guys feel about his performance in this movie?
It's more of a cameo than a performance to me.
Right.
Like it's so brief, and so I didn't see it coming that I was like, okay, this is a little bonus, but it's not. He does not make or break the movie. He's just kind of existing.
Yeah, definitely. But like, I agree with you because it's almost like it's a cameo, and he was like, "I'm in a Martin Scorsese movie. I am in a Martin Scorsese movie. Like, listen to me." it's very jarring. I was like, "Yo, if I was sleepy, I'd be like, what? What's going on?" But yeah, sorry, Brendan.
Yeah, has he done comedy before?
That's what he's known for. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like
so that's why I'm like,
you guys are a lot younger than I am. But Brendan Fraser was like, comedic, but also very handsome.
He did the George of the Jungle, the live one.
Yeah, George of the Jungle. Yeah.
This is a blind spot that I may never in my life.
George of the Jungle?
No, not that. The 2004 Crash. I have never heard a single positive thing about that.
We used to own that on DVD. I've watched it way too many times.
Like so much so, I heard recently they like recounted the vote to make Brokeback Mountain win the Best Picture. Like, I was like, people really, really did
It's
not
not
like that
good.
movie.
No.
It's
And he has a cameo in that too. He's barely in it.
if you look up laying it on thick in the
It comes
dictionary,
up
there will be a
Crash.
picture of Crash. Yeah. It's not that it's necessary. It's just kind of like a movie where you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But because it's telling like 8 different stories, you have to say, okay, I get it,
Is it
8 different times. And
is it like a very poor version of Magnolia?
yes,
I guess so. It's like Love Actually if it was trying to be serious and failing.
Yeah, it's both of those movies, but for race
I
relations.
see.
Right.
Yes. And so it's like, hey, let's explore race relations
Mhm.
over all these different, Matt Dillon plays a really great racist cop. I will say that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I think that he does a good racist cop in that movie. But Brendan Fraser, I think he's someone that a lot of people around my age have a lot of goodwill for. He was also in the Mummy movie,
Yeah, The Mummy.
which was so well loved, and I still love that movie.
You don't like the second one?
It's okay. You had the annoying little kid into that one.
Everybody
So
says that,
takes
but
it
I
down.
watched that when I was a kid, so I liked the annoying kid.
Okay. All right. So Brendan, have you guys seen the Bee movie?
Yeah.
I told you, Seth. I watched that when I was a kid. I put it in the DVD player, and she fell in love with that bee, and I was like, this is too dumb for me, for my 10-year-old self, and I took it out. I was done.
It is.
So John Goodman plays a lawyer in the Bee movie. That's like this very southern bombastic lawyer, and I think that is what Brendan Fraser may have based his performance on. It's fine. It's not
But he's not southern in this film. That's one thing I noticed. He didn't have an accent.
Yeah, I don't know. People are kind of like outraged over his performance and like the presence that he's bringing to it. Greg, as a law student, Greg, how did you feel about his lawyering?
Like, he played a role. I don't think it was anything worth outrage over. Like, it's just you could say it wasn't for me, but it's not like, protested bad.
Right. Yeah. And maybe that's what Marty wanted him to do. Maybe that's how he was directed. Like, why are we putting all this on him?
Yeah, and I do think like when we initially meet him versus when we meet him at the Council of Evil White Men later on, it's kind of like night and day,
Right, yeah.
He kind of calms down and he's like actually talking to Ernest, and but yeah, that initial like, I demand to speak to my client, and the whole court goes up in flames and everyone's like, no, this can't happen. But I did like it because he's playing it ridiculous, and it is ridiculous because the fact that he, legally he's able to find this kind of loophole to do this, it is ridiculous. It is absurd. It's completely outrageous. And so I think that, he kind of fits that moment a little bit.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about the ending? The whole, cigarette radio play.
Like I said, I thought that was clever. That was a clever way to wrap it up.
That's creative.
I feel like he's so good at beginnings and endings. Like, they're just so iconic. Like, when I think about his films, I go back to like the beginning of Goodfellas or the beginning of Gangs of New York, and there's just like a whole story there in and of itself, which I think, is the way it should be.
Doesn't Raging Bull somewhat end the same way, where like you're on a stage and it's like all these moments later?
Does it?
He's doing his like comedy routine, kind of singing thing.
It sounds silly to say, but like, of the Martin Scorsese movies, Raging Bull, don't sleep on that one.
Yeah, that's great.
Because there's so many he has that I'm like, oh yeah, also this one.
Like, yo, Raging Bull, that's really underrated. You know that?
It is, yeah. I don't think we give it enough props. We gotta know. No, people need
the people need
to know how I feel about Raging Bull.
Have you heard about this Raging Bull? the
Whole
movie
Twitter
which
right now.
basically kickstarted his career again.
Yeah, we need that.
Yeah, I did a real big Marty deep dive over the last 2 years. I think I only have 7 of his movies left, which
Ooh,
sounds like a
nice.
lot, but when you know how many movies
Right.
he
Because
has,
you're
and
counting
each one,
all the documentaries too, right?
only a few of the documentary, because some of them, like, I'm not counting all his like shorts.
Uh-huh.
He's got like a lot of shorts and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, I'm not counting that, but yeah. Also considering like throwing on a Scorsese picture isn't like, let me just throw this on. You know what I mean? Like, you really have to kind of be there and be present, and I feel like kind of mentally prepare. Like, there have been a few times where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna finally watch Bringing Out the Dead, and I'm just like, nope, I'm not in the headspace to fully absorb this, and so I'll kind of. But I agree with you, Greg. Like, it's kind of crazy how you can have such wildly different favorites from him, and I think it
Uh-huh.
really just depends on what you've seen. I haven't seen Age of Innocence yet, and the people who've seen it are like, this is his best movie. This
Yeah,
is
I've
an
heard this too.
amazing,
Yeah.
amazing movie.
I kind of
And
wanted
like,
to
when I
read
saw
the book first before I see it.
nah. When I saw King of Comedy, I was like,
Oh yeah,
my
people say that's
God,
also one of his greats.
why has no one told me that this is the best? Because I think that's maybe my favorite of his. And then like Mean Streets is probably my second favorite of his. And the kids who grew up and watched Hugo when they were little kids are like, Hugo is amazing. And now all these people are coming out and saying that Killers of the Flower Moon is his best movie. And it's a career kind of unlike any other, and it's pretty great. But so this ending, I don't know. when it first came to it, I felt really shocked, and I was like, is he gonna stick this landing? You know, like, I was like, oh man, like, this is such a huge shift. And I think he did, especially when he comes out and gives like the final lines of the obituary.
Right.
I don't know. What did you guys think about that?
I thought that was great to include that, because, you know, for any imbeciles who are watching this film, it's like, yep, this is Marty, and this is what he thinks, and this is how he feels about this subject.
I'm gonna assume these are kind of like bait, but like any tweet that's like, "Oh, this woman walked out of the movie because they heard it was too political." I'm like, I just can't believe that people are that, like, I don't know, ignorant to what's happening in the movie.
No, I totally believe it. I'm surrounded by them.
Like, this is not the movie you go to watch to just be entertained.
Right.
You should know that.
As I was leaving the theater, there was this couple who were leaving with me, and they were older, not like 80s older, but maybe like mid 50s to late 50s, and they were talking to each other about the movie, and they explicitly said, they were like, Robert De Niro, we really don't like his politics. I really don't like his politics, but he's so good, and this movie was so good. And so I think that clearly these people don't agree with Marty and De Niro's politics, but they were still able to sit through 3.5 hours and appreciate the movie.
Right.
And I think when something is based in fact, it's kind of like, how can you? I don't feel that Marty was putting any kind of political spin on this movie. He's just telling history.
Yeah.
Like, it's just history. How can you tell a story about the exploitation of Native Americans and like think that you're trying to push some kind of agenda? He's telling the story of what happened.
Yeah. And the thing about him, I kind of disagree with you. Like, I feel like he makes, art house films, but I feel like they're very accessible because he just has such taste, he knows how to like get you riled up. The beginning of this movie when they're in the oil and they're dancing around and you're just like pumped. You're like, oh, okay, this is a story. This is happening, you know?
Right.
He injects just so much like vibrancy, and I feel like he's very conscious of always growing. I don't know if you've read this, that he is very much inspired by Ari Aster.
Yes.
And he was very much inspired by like the pacing of his films, and I feel like you could see that in this film a lot, especially in the you know, when the sister was bombed. It was very much like, oh, this is Midsommar. this is just devastating. But yeah, I don't know. It's a political film, but I feel like every film is political, and I feel like people who don't realize that are just very ignorant, and I'm uninterested in having discourse with them.
Greg, how did you feel about Marty's little cameo at the end?
I thought it was great. I think it was a, not a cameo for the sake of I want to put myself in. It's, for those media literacy who kind of need the help in that department, it's like, here, I'm telling you as the author my feelings and take on it. And yeah, I mean, it was great.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I really, like I said, once we got into the radio program, I was a little nervous of like, whoa, this is this.
It's very
this
like
is
Chicago-ish.
a big, yeah, like this is a big swing, man.
Yeah.
Like, are you sure you want to end this like tragedy this way? But that ending, and then the final shot of the Osage in modern times, as
so
we
beautiful.
like slowly lift out, I was like, man, this is great ending. And yeah, the ending was near my favorite part.
Right. Yeah. I feel like as I was writing my review for this, I didn't know that I loved it as much as I did, but just like reflecting all that, just how he makes sure like this is who this movie is about, ending it and starting it that way. I just, it just kind of brought tears to my eyes. It was so beautiful.
Yeah. So I did ask some people on Twitter just some of their thoughts, and Jens Draby said, I kept wondering why there were some non-translated parts of the Osage language dialogue. Did that seem odd to you guys?
No.
I think it was, I mean, I don't think it's the first movie I've seen do this. I think it's kind of supposed to be, the divide of if you're an English speaker, there's parts that you don't understand. Like it's intentional. It's a move.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't really bother me because I was like, I think that we're kind of understanding a little bit. We might not understand the words, but I feel like we're
from like the
we're understanding a little bit. Yeah.
You know what?
And I think we're supposed to kind of be in the dark. It's kind of gives that suspense. Although it's like it's not really a suspenseful movie because it's like who the threat is. It's so interesting. It's not suspenseful, but it still is suspenseful.
I forgot that Apple Plus is the distributor behind this, so it's gonna come to streaming. But big win for Apple, I guess.
Yeah.
In case they needed more wins.
Right. Yeah. One of the biggest companies on
Netflix
the planet.
Netflix dropped that ball, like
because Netflix does not enjoy success anymore. They love to just
like. Didn't they do The Irishman? Like
they don't want to keep it.
Yeah,
up.
but they came out and said after The Irishman that they weren't going to focus on big, passion projects anymore. Right. Basically,
Netflix sucks.
Netflix original content is maybe the worst of any. Like, I'll take Freevee's original content over Netflix's. Like, well, it really does just seem like quantity over quality. Yeah. They're like, it doesn't matter. Well, we have all this money, throw anything against the wall, and eventually we'll get a Squid Game.
Yet I never watch anything on there anymore. It's so bizarre.
It's so much starting and stopping. Starting and stopping.
Shauna said, RDJ or De Niro? Who stole the show more? Hope you all enjoyed the film. I thought Lily Gladstone was truly special.
Is that our Shauna?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Who stole the show more? Interesting.
Yeah, De Niro or RDJ.
Who's RDJ?
Oppenheimer. Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer.
Oh, I didn't see that movie.
Well, I guess
Weasel
Greg can't answer.
Not a real cinephile.
Yeah.
No, of course you are. I don't know. What do you think, Seth?
I mean, a lot of people are comparing this movie to Oppenheimer,
Right.
I guess because it's like two big movies that I don't know, historical
big cast
epics
of like
from this year.
You know, you randomly see some random white guy and you're like, oh,
yeah.
This.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd probably give it to RDJ. Like I said, I think my biggest beef with this movie is De Niro, and it feels so weird and crazy saying that, but
I mean, it's interesting. Like now that she pointed it out, I can see how people would compare their roles. The characters are very similar in ways, and like it is kind of like I wish they didn't play it so comically, because it kind of took away just the villainous nature of this character. I was just kind of like, this guy is just such a little turd. So
yes,
silly.
Exactly.
And that's how
when
I
they were
about
in that
RDJ,
meeting,
who I think is a great actor, but I'm just like, man, you just got by Oppenheimer. That's so silly. I can't even like take you seriously.
When they were in that meeting and they were saying, oh, we've raised like $5,000 for the arrest and conviction, and De Niro just like pops in and he's like, well, I'm adding $1,000 to that. I was like, dude, shut up, sit down, stop talking.
Right.
Like, get this guy out of here.
It kind of reminds me of what's his name? What is that guy's name from he's the guy in Big Eyes, in the Inglourious Bastards.
Christoph Waltz?
Okay, that's what I thought his name was. And how people kind of turned on his performance at the end of Big Eyes. It was just kind of like histrionic and just silly, and it was kind of like
Right.
I mean, I think that character is real, but it doesn't translate well on screen. Like, I've known people like that who are just complete narcissists, and you're like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. I think it doesn't translate through De Niro is the problem. I feel like it didn't filter through him because I'm looking at De Niro. I'm not looking at this character of Kane. I'm looking at De Niro doing this role. That's just me.
Have you seen Cape Fear?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's one of De Niro's best roles.
Okay.
In my opinion. How did you guys feel about the paddling?
Oh, the paddling. Yeah. And he broke it. I was like, he's so lucky that he broke it, because he was going to keep going.
Yeah, I guess I've never been paddled by a big paddle like that. Like, whenever that happens,
you've talked about this,
like,
and you think it doesn't hurt. It hurts.
Yeah, like, how bad could that hurt? De Niro is like 80 years old, swinging that. Come on, how much force is he really putting into that paddle?
It's a solid wood paddle. Yeah. There wasn't even any holes in it. Like, was it Dead Poet Society? You guys were talking about that?
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, maybe we'll have to do a live demonstration at the live show.
Oh my God.
The oldest man I can find paddle me on stage and see.
And then when he was like, "Take a seat," I'm like, I wouldn't want to sit down after that. Can I lie here?
All right. Well, if you guys don't have anything else to mention, clearly that's not it, because this is a 3.5 hour long movie. But would you guys recommend people see this like in theaters, or what do you think?
Yeah. It deserves to be seen in theaters. Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks for coming on and talking about this movie with me. This was fun.
It was fun.
It's always a pleasure to hear Greg.
Yep.
It's always a pleasure to hear Jamila. And
we love you, Marty.
We love you, Marty.
just for when he hears this, because he will hear it.
He will. Absolutely.
Marty, you're my grandpa.
You know what's going to happen is that his daughter is going to show him this episode. And he's going to be like, how
let's
kind.
Hope so. And let's hope,
that's right.
Aronofsky hears.
Francis Ford Coppola is active on Instagram. Have you seen
I know.
his post?
I know. It's crazy.
He's like, how do you work this, kids?
Yeah, and he'll respond to people.
Yes.
That's why I love the internet. I love, I've interacted with filmmakers that I love, and it's pretty wild. So where can people find you guys online?
I am at Greg in the Pocket everywhere. Just one thing.
It's convenient. I'm at Jamila Brownie. So it's like my name and then IE because I'm on creative. And I have like a little blog. And then I also have a letterbox, which is my profile.
Very cool. Well, thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the show, give us a rating, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Movie Friends Podcast. Send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. How did you feel about this movie? Did you like it? Did you hate it? How did you feel about how we felt about this movie? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Anyway, thanks again, guys. This was a lot of fun. And thank you for listening. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Vicora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks!